How can a poem teach lessons about life? In this lesson, you will learn how to determine the theme or universal lesson of a poem by reviewing images, sounds, and symbols. So far from 12th Song of the Thunder, we've learned that the poem is from the Navajo people. It compares the noise of thunder and grasshoppers to voices, and it says that these voices make the land beautiful. Three important words that you will need to know for today's lesson are imagery, sounds, and symbols. Imagery are the pictures a poet creates in our minds with their words. Sounds are what we hear in a poem when it is read, whether it rhymes or has a certain beat. And symbols are words or things that really stand for something else, meaning that they're figurative, not to be taken literally. A common mistake we make when reading poetry is confusing the theme with the subject of the poem. Take a look at these examples. This poem was about thunder is not an example of theme. That is the subject of the poem. Thunder and grasshoppers have a voice is true for this poem, but it doesn't give us a lesson. We should respect nature is a universal theme. Theme is a universal lesson, meaning that it's not just specific to the poem, but it can be applied anywhere in life. Now let's consider the imagery, sounds, and symbols of this poem. The imagery that we see in 12th Song of the Thunder shows us that the poem has thunder, clouds, grasshoppers, and plants, which really can just be summed up as nature. The sounds in the poem 12th Song of Thunder don't really have too many rhymes, but we do hear a lot of repetition. Voice, beauty, and land are all important words that affect the sound of this poem. Lastly, for symbols, we see that voice really was a symbol for communication and sharing a message. It also stood for making the land beautiful. Now that we've reviewed the images, sounds, and symbols, let's ask ourselves, what lesson are we learning through all three of these things? Well, when we think about how they come together, we see that there is something that we can learn. We should respect all parts of nature, no matter how big or small, because they work together to make our world beautiful. This sounds like a really good theme that captures the meaning of the poem. But before we finish, let's ask ourselves, could this be a lesson that works anywhere in life? Is it just specific to this poem, or something we could take with us wherever we go? Yes, this is a universal lesson because it teaches us about how to interact with nature. The steps we took to find the theme involved asking how the imagery, sound, and symbols shape the meaning of this poem. Then we wrote what lesson the poem could teach us based on our notes. And finally, we double-checked to make sure that the lesson was universal. In this lesson, you have learned how to determine the theme or universal lesson of a poem by reviewing the images, sounds, and symbols.